And actually, Judge, if we could have this as well. Are you ready, Brian? Are you ready? Okay. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Norbert Brian Newmeister.
Okay.
I just told him that he's still under oath. It's not,
Oh, but that's not hooked up to this.
right, but I need to make sure that this is working properly. Are you going to be using the,
I am, because
Elmo
we
also?
have the marked exhibit version of this that.
okay, then I need to make sure. There it goes. Okay. You may proceed.
Thank you. And Mr. Newmeister, before we proceed into the work you did relating this to this photograph we see here as Exhibit 159, if you could take a look at the exhibit on the screen.
I'm seeing it on the screen here.
Okay. And you're familiar with Exhibit 159?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Counsel, he has to speak up. Yes, sir.
And before we, like I said, before we go into the work you did on Exhibit 159, I want to go back into your background well, let me ask you this. Is there a simple explanation that you can provide that would describe the work you did on Exhibit 159?
To stay within downward standards, I did very simple enlargement. I didn't do a lot of fancy tricks, basically. I multiplied.
Excuse me, Mr. Newmeister, the court reporter is having difficulty hearing you. I'm not sure this is going to work.
Maybe if he could testify and then come down when he needs to? Or?
Okay, perfect. We're going to give you a handheld
Oh,
microphone.
actually, Brian.
This may assist you.
Oh, thank you.
Let's try this.
Check.
This video and enhancement, enlargement, let's talk about your background in the video enhancement enlargement. How long have you been working in that field?
I've been working professionally with cameras since the 1980s.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we're going to need to try a different microphone. Try that one. It's
No,
not
that
on
one's-
yet. You
that
need to
one's-
flip the switch.
Once.
Okay, let's try it again.
Okay. I'm gonna ask the same question again. As to your experience in video enhancement and enlargement, how long have you been working in this field?
I've been working professionally since 1980.
And in terms of your background or training in doing video enhancement and enlargements, could you describe that for us?
Well, my dad was a executive at the National Broadcasting Company for 33 years, so I sort of grew up in the engineering department at NBC Television in Burbank. I began using still cameras.
Can we?
Yeah, it's very difficult.
You want to just come up there?
I think we're going to need to have you sit in the witness stand. So, Mr. Martinez, I guess you can stand on this side of the courtroom. All right, sir, have a seat.
Mike, did you get that? I'm sorry, Mr. Newmeister, I'm going to have you begin anew, at least with your education and training as it relates to video enhancement or enlargement.
I'm not sure if you got this earlier, so I'll just reiterate. I grew up with my dad being an executive at the National Broadcasting Company in Burbank, California for the network. So I had access to, it's kind of my second home away from home, working in the studios and hanging out with the engineers and working with the high-end camera, just kind of as a trainee, and they kind of took me under their wing. After that, as far as starting to work with cameras, the cameras that I started out with in the 70s were high-end cameras like Hasselblad and Leica. They're very high-end cameras.
Okay.
Throughout the 80s, I worked with really excellent photographers like Niall Latham, Tom Brzezinski, Bill Wallner, mostly all in Hasselblad and Mamiya format. At the same time, I was working a lot with professional video cameras for KPNX television here in Phoenix.
And as it relates to enhancing or enlarging an image, when did you begin working on that aspect forensically?
For magazines like Arizona Highways, for different things, they wanted images cropped. And originally it wasn't done with Photoshop, it was done with enlargers. But again, these are the film days. We're talking about digital cameras right now. So we began cropping probably in the early 80s, cropping negatives or actually prints.
Okay. And when you mentioned the difference between digital and film, when did digital really come into prominence?
Well, it's kind of still, working its way in. There are those who feel that shooting, for example, on film, shooting Panavision has its proponents. Shooting on what's called a red or a Cine Alta has its proponents. So it's still coming in. It's probably 5 years ago, you could say that it started actually making a dent, where it started really cutting into the film market.
Okay. And in terms of enhancing digital photography, and what we're looking at here in 159 is a digital photograph, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. In terms of enhancing digital photographs, what training and experience do you have in that regard?
I've worked as a beta tester for a number of software companies that develop stuff beyond Photoshop. In other words, Clear ID, forensic, basically components that are made for forensic purposes. As far as working with Photoshop, I've worked with it since it first came out to the latest edition. It's fairly straightforward. It's good for doing portraits, family work, but it's not.
Please approach. Take about a 2-minute recess while we make some adjustments.